in 2020, lots of bad things happened. It wasn't a great year in most ways. The majority of this is all far too serious to discuss within a YouTube channel dedicated to theme parks. But the less serious discussions of how this affected the theme parks is a much better fit. So, with the event in full swing this year, I wanted to take a look at the cancelled Halloween Horror Nights Orlando of 2020. Hopefully, enough time and enough Halloween Horror Nights have passed that this doesn't hurt too much to discuss. In fact, not all that much was actually lost from this cancelled year. Instead, many of the planned houses and scare zones seem to have been carried over from 2020 into 2021. But be it for IP licensing reasons or simply the fact that a better idea replaced it, there was one planned house that never saw the light of day, or should I say, the fog of night. Despite dates having been announced and even tickets having gone on sale, Universal made no official announcements of what we would have seen at Halloween Horror Nights in 2020. This, if you cast your mind back to 2020, something I'm sorry to ask you to do, isn't very surprising. Cancellation of the event felt pretty inevitable long before it was announced on July the 24th, 2020. Therefore, in order to speculate about the contents of this cancelled event, we must go off of slightly less official sources than Universal themselves. Instead, a combination of speculation maps matched up with the houses that we eventually did see in 2021, and also some leaked prop pictures are all we have to go off of. Thankfully, with the incredible accuracy of Halloween Horror Nights speculation maps, this information all paints what seems to be a pretty accurate picture. So, let's begin with what we absolutely know was planned. That is, of course, the 3 houses that actually did open in 2020. On September the 14th, 2020, Universal announced that despite Halloween Horror Nights having been cancelled, they would still be offering some special seasonal attractions, 2 of which were haunted houses that would be free to access to people attending the parks during the day. These 2 houses were Universal Monsters' The Bride of Frankenstein Lives and Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. With this, 1 original and 1 IP house were open to the public, and this helped ease the pain of the cancelled event. Then, as a special Halloween treat, a 3rd house opened up on October the 31st and November the 1st. This was the long-rumoured and long-wished-for Beetlejuice house. Thanks to this, we have 3 of the 10 planned houses for Halloween Horror Nights 2020 very much officially confirmed. Plus, as these 3 houses all remained for when the event fully returned in 2021, it aids the assumption that much of what else was at Halloween Horror Nights in 2021 was originally planned for the event in 2020. If we take a look at the speculation map posted by Halloween Horror Nights Nightmares in 2020 and compare it to the official map of Halloween Horror Nights in 2021, we can quickly see that much is the same. As far as scare zones go, this map gets locations wrong, but the presence of an anniversary scare zone, a 30 years, 30 fears scare zone, and a Terra Quentus inspired scare zone all correct. Then it seems fair to assume that the unknown original could well have been Seek and Destroy from 2021. The only thing that was referenced here that never actually appeared was the Creepshow scare zone. This speculation perhaps only came from the fact that 2019 had seen a Creepshow house in Hollywood, so the property was pretty relevant and would have made a lot of sense come 2020. But instead of this, 2021 saw Crypt TV a different IP present. Likely, this is all just down to a couple of licensing issues, but overall, the scare zone predictions were pretty spot on. Now onto houses. 5 original idea houses appear upon the 2020 speculation map, one of which, the Revenge of the Tooth Fairy, is already of course confirmed. Then the other 4 present all appeared in 2021. These are HHN Icons Uncaptured, Wicked Grove Realm of the Pumpkin, Puppet Theatre Captive Audience, and the only one with even a slightly wrong name upon the map, Welcome to Scary Horror in the Heartland. So, did this map have just as much success guessing the IP houses? Well, yeah, pretty much. Obviously, we already know Universal Monsters, The Bride of Frankenstein Lives, and Beetlejuice were created for 2020 and then carried through to 2021. But in addition to this, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Haunting of Hill House would both appear in 2021. This leaves only one house upon the speculation map. That is Billie Eilish. If you didn't partake in the speculation in 2020, this name might surprise you. In fact, you might just assume that despite the accuracy of the rest of the speculations, this was the only one which everyone got very wrong. But evidence suggests that a Billie Eilish house was very much in the works for the cancelled Halloween Horror Nights in 2020. Rumours really began for this house back in March 2019, when the official Horror Nights account on Twitter replied to a tweet asking for a Billie Eilish-inspired house by saying, "That would be a very interesting collaboration. Love her video for Bury a Friend." Perhaps this is where the idea was truly sparked for both parties, as it is said that meetings did not occur with Billie Eilish's representatives until early 2020. Speculation ranged from the star getting her very own house to her simply providing the music for either a Universal Monsters house, or with her providing the music for the event's nighttime Lagoon show. Although perhaps not in line with her current style, back in 2020, Eilish's style was pretty dark and horror-inspired. The music videos for her 2019 album When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? All featured imagery that perfectly fits within the horror genre. Therefore, at the time, Billie Eilish was a pretty great match for the event. Just like the less adult but still horror-adjacent properties such as Stranger Things and Ghostbusters that we had already seen at Halloween Horror Nights, Eilish could have helped to attract a new audience to the event. The assumption seems to be that your typical horror fan does not need to be attracted to Halloween Horror Nights, as it is such a staple event within the community that most fans already have it either within their plans or upon their wish list. With the horror fan audience already captured, it seems to be a broader audience that Halloween Horror Nights has to try to attract in order to expand their numbers. Therefore, featuring Billie Eilish would have achieved this, thanks to her huge fan base, many of whom would likely have never visited the event otherwise. With this, new guests and Billie Eilish merchandise sales would have seen much success. But as this house never actually opened up, how can we be quite so sure that it was actually planned? Well, in December 2020, photos surfaced on Twitter which showcased what can only be props that were planned to be used within this house. There are images of a wooden bed frame with a headboard featuring her lyrics, an album title, When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go, carved into it. There are also engravings of a cobweb, monster-like figures, and more of her lyrics, which say suicidal stolen art. Then there is a white dresser featuring a letter B on top, which is covered in slime green paint drips, a colour which matched the star's hair at the time. Then there were two window frames and images of shadowy figures which look very similar to the on-screen images that she played during her live performances of the song Copycat. Finally, there was the upper part of a large face, similar in style to the bed carvings, with the images having clearly been taken within Universal's workshop and the references to Eilish too clear to deny. These images pretty much confirmed what we had all suspected. A Billie Eilish house was very much in the works for the cancelled Halloween Horror Nights in 2020. All of these props seem to come together to create a bedroom scene, which exactly matches the contents of her When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go album cover, and the video for her song Bury a Friend. It seems that the house would have taken us into the nightmare world of her 2019 album, answering the titular question with the horror-like contents of her music videos. Plus, even the trailer released for the event in 2021 featured a woman covered in spiders with one coming out of her mouth, much like within Billie Eilish's music video for her song You Should See Me in a Crown. This would make sense as the rest of the trailer features references to The Haunting of Hill House and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Even the song in the background features a voice which sounds a lot like Billie Eilish. so it seems the trailer was already recorded in 2020, and the song used in the 2021 version was a replacement of what for 2020 would have been one of Billie Eilish's songs. Reportedly, when Universal reached out to Eilish's team to extend their contract to use the house for the event in 2021, Eilish's representatives declined. By 2021, Billie Eilish was promoting a new album titled Happier Than Ever. This saw the musician leave behind the darker themes and imagery of her previous album in favour of more real-world and introspective themes. With this, the Halloween Horror Nights house no longer reflected her image, and would have been too much of a contrast to the body of work that she was promoting in 2021. Instead, to replace this lost IP, Universal's creative team came up with another original house. This house, located within the Shrek 4D theatre, was called Case Files Unearthed: Legendary Truth, and seemingly had absolutely no traces of the scrapped Billie Eilish attraction. Instead, this house revolved around Halloween Horror Nights' long-running story of the Legendary Truth Collective, who were created by Boris Schuster to study the evil that takes place at Halloween Horror Nights. If you're still not convinced by the legitimacy of the claims that Billie Eilish would have received a house in 2020, may I point you towards The Weeknd. In 2022, The Weeknd After Hours Nightmare was a house based upon the music videos of musician The Weeknd, specifically those for his album After Hours. Filled with his incredibly catchy songs, this house was a pretty big hit, as it felt rather different to anything else we've ever had before. Rock musicians have been present at the event before, particularly within houses are Hollywood's version of the event, but this was the first time that pop music had really played a large role. This made for a contrasting atmosphere to much of the other dark themes at the event, and provided a nice balance while still comfortably fitting the horror theme thanks to the complex horror narratives explored within The Weeknd's work. In fact, as well as the 2021 houses in Hollywood and Orlando, in 2023, Halloween Horror Nights in Singapore received The Weeknd house, and in 2024, Halloween Horror Nights Hollywood once again have built a house based around The Weeknd's music.
The Weeknd returns in an all-new Nightmare trilogy, only at Universal Halloween Horror Nights, where horror lives.
Clearly, Universal have found great success by utilising The Weeknd. Whether or not the Billie Eilish house would have been quite as popular is hard to say, but personally, I do think it would have worked pretty well. Overall, this is really all that was lost from the event in 2020, which is pretty good going if you ask me. Perhaps Billie Eilish will return to a darker theme within her music in the future, and we may finally get to see what her presence would have been like at the event. She's certainly still a regular attendee of Halloween Horror Nights over in Hollywood, so I don't think the possibility of a Billie Eilish house is quite over yet. Are you sad that we never got to see this house? Or do you think its loss was an overall positive? Personally, although I think that it would have worked pretty well, I was a big fan of Case Files Unearthed: Legendary Truth, so I can't see the change as a total loss. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, check out some of my other videos and the links in the description.